Hello. How do you feel? Good. Are you looking for the walking dinner? You have just 1 hour and a half before that. And thank you all for coming to our session. And big thank you for the sponsors of this event, because everybody wants to sponsor business decision makers, but you guys are technical community, and it's always very difficult to sponsor technical community. So again, those sponsors that made this event possible, a big thank you for those. My name is Ermakov. I am a managing partner of Avara IT in Russia, and this year we are country partner of the year. I'm also a Microsoft MVP in 2 categories, in business applications, and specifically in Business Central and in Microsoft Azure. And I'm also Microsoft Regional Director in Russia, so I have several hats, and I put them differently depending on the case. And I have with me my dearest colleague, Andrey Baludin, and he is architect in our company, and he is a developer, and he does really crazy things. Some of them we will show today. As you probably already know, I am the guy who doesn't like customizations. Actually, hates customizations, and I don't like to program or develop any code if there is a standard option to avoid that. And our session actually is dedicated to how to diminish actually the development effort, and this is what we will talk about today. We will talk about Intelligent Edge. How many of you had heard what Intelligent Edge is? Wow, that's good. Everything that we will talk today about is based on our real practical business experience. So all the cases and all the demos that we will show, they have been taken from our customers. So I will not talk any marketing bullshit, just the real things. We will talk a little bit about CDS and Power Platform. Remote Assist and Microsoft Teams. Who knows what Remote Assist is? This would be interesting. We talk about a variety of Azure integration capabilities, Azure API management, Microsoft Graph and Logic Apps, and a little bit about the recent OData performance improvements. So, let's rock. Today's product message that we feel as a partner is that developers are not anymore needed the way that they existed so far. The reason for that is that time to market is very important. And our customers, they want a solution as fast as possible. So you as a developer is not valued on the market if you are not able to deliver the solution fast. So what does it mean? If you program something and you know there is a library exists, you don't create your own library, you use existing library, right? If there is a framework exists, you also use a framework. So you don't create your own frameworks just for fun. With the same fashion, if there is a service, specifically Azure service in the cloud exists, we strongly recommend to look at utilization of that service without developing, customizing, and redesigning your standard application. And this would significantly increase the speed of delivering the solution. The second thought is that our customers started to look rather on the ownership cost of the solution in comparison with the initial implementation. So the customer starts not to value how much it would actually cost to implement something, rather than to have a stack of solution that exists in a constantly changing environment. And we unfortunately are living in such a world that constantly changes. The era where you could for half a year create a technical design, and then for a year you can develop something, and then you test, and then you train the users, and then you go live. It's not anymore valid. If you are writing a technical design more than 3 months, you can throw it in a trash bin because everything had changed. People had changed, customers have new people, new technologies appear, their customers demand something new products. So all this changing environment constantly forces the customers to search for such a stack of technologies that can efficiently adopt. Efficiently means quickly and without a huge cost to adopt to constantly changing environment. And if you would be able, as a developer, provide quick solutions, you would be the most valuable on the market. Another thing is, and this is what you probably know already, is that Business Central is the last ERP to implement. Because historically, when you implemented a solution in your company, you always kept in your mind that within 6 or 7 years it would be obsolete and you need to upgrade, or you need to migrate to another product, a new version. So every time, historically, when an implementation took place, the customer always thought that there should be a budget planned within 5, 6, or 7 years to upgrade the solution. And now it's not anymore needed, because if you develop customizations the way that Microsoft recommends, if you're using extensions, and if you're using the solutions that we will demonstrate today, you would always have the same system, and it would be always easily upgraded, and you all the time will have the newest system within the years. And this is the idea, and this is the concept. And last but not least, it is not just an ERP. Microsoft is not selling anymore just an ERP, because it is always best of breed competition in certain countries, and there are always some other systems which are difficult to compete face to face. Microsoft offers the whole landscape of solutions. So I strongly recommend you to think about Business Central not just an ERP itself, but as a part of integral stack of everything that Microsoft offers. And there is no any other vendor who is actually offering this kind of wide range of solutions, who live together quite seamlessly, and which they can allow to adopt quickly to constantly changing environment. So my main message here is to avoid customizations by all means. My usual question, I ask this in my almost every session: do you know what sketch to code is? Who knows? I see a lot more hands than the last time. For those who doesn't know, this is a service in Azure. You can take a piece of paper and draw the way how your website looks like, with the fields and with drop-down lists. And you can take a picture of that piece of paper and upload this to Azure Service, which would return to you a ready website with a code behind that. And of course, this code is not that much optimal, but it will take some time and it would be optimal. So it has artificial intelligence behind that, and this is how it looks like. So you just take a piece of paper, draw how your website looks like, and then it returns back a ready website. So the whole world is moving towards that direction. As a developer, you are not needed anymore if you just write a certain code. You need to think about the existing services which you can utilize. And since our session is dedicated mainly to integration between those different parts of Microsoft technologies, I'd like to say a few words about integration itself, because integration is usually mistreated and used incorrectly in many cases. Because integration as such is a thing that combines several data components or configuration items into some higher level system. And interaction, and we will use rather word interaction, is the capability to communicate and execute programs or transfer data between various systems the way that user even doesn't understand that this data is taken from different systems. Now, if you think about the examples, if you schedule a replication of data from one database to another, this is integration. And if you sync customer data between two different databases, this is also integration. But in most cases, we actually speak about interaction. Let's say a sales order is created in Business Central when the customer quote is accepted in the CRM, which is now not CRM anymore. It's several different products, and we again have interesting place with namings, but with a customer engagement. So out of that, we have the concept of data surfacing. So the best integration is actually no integration. When you are able to seamlessly connect different parts of data from different sources and present to the user in a unified way, it's a lot better than integrating and sending them between different systems. And one element of that is actually a known solution, which is called Power BI. And you, of course, everybody know what Power BI is, right? When you use traditional Business Central reports, they can answer just one question: what actually happened? And that's it. If the user wants to learn why it happened, he wants to play with report. He wants to put filters. He wants to do drill downs. He wants to do insights, to play with the data. And this is the capability of Power BI that allows the users to have a lot more interactive experience with the report. So I strongly recommend you not to create any reports in Power BI unless this is some statutory required print forms. Go for Power BI for the users. It's a lot more interesting and interactive way of doing reports, and a lot more fast way of doing the reports. So again, the era of developers who created the reports and SSRS or whatever old-fashioned NAV reports has gone. Look at Power BI. This is only the second level. At the third level, there is a possibility to answer the questions, and don't take the pictures yet because there would be also a fourth level. With the predictions, you can answer the question, what will happen? And this is actually quite a trend at the moment because historically, you were building a report based on statistical data, and then you show the user the results of the report as of today. But then the user wants to make a decision for the future period based on this information. And this is a key element because if you would be able to enrich the data with the predictions using machine learning algorithms, the results of the report might be different. So you can say to the user, okay, this is the situation of today, but in the future, it is highly likely that it would be changed to a different figure, so the users would be able to do a different business decisions. Let's take from a retail classical ABC analysis report. It sorts the products sold to different categories, A, B, or C, based on cash or quantities. And the category manager in retail, he plans his activities further on based on this report. If you would be able to show him that today, this item is a category A item, but then in the future, it is highly likely that it would be category B, the category manager would most likely act differently and plan his actions of purchases or promotions also differently. And the fourth level is the question, what should I do? And with the capabilities of Power BI, everything is moving there. So Power BI is already able to answer the question, what will happen? Soon it would be able to answer the question, what should I do? And this is the top automation in the business decision making. So whilst your system would tell the users actually what needs to be done. Okay, going to our demos. The first thing we will demonstrate as a part of this integration and interaction is Intelligent Edge. With Intelligent Edge, it has been released in the end of 2018, and it was aimed to provide a kind of easier access to cloud services of users of on-prem solutions, so they can utilize more the cloud services out of the box. So the main idea is that you are having an on-prem installation, and you want to integrate it with a cloud solution to replicate the data there and utilize a variety of cloud services that are connected to a cloud installation. And this has been the main idea when released by Microsoft. Are there Microsoft people in the room? No? Okay, that's good. Because we would show the scenarios that were not planned actually, and they're not officially supported. So the main idea was to replicate the data from on-prem installation to a cloud installation, but it had several limitations. One of the biggest limitations before April of this year was the limitation that the database schemas needed to be identical. So the solution in a cloud and on-premise should have the same structure. Good thing that after April release, this limitation has gone, and you are now able to connect different databases with different database schemas together using Intelligent Edge. And Intelligent Edge itself is a small routine that you install and set up in more or less 15 minutes, and you don't need to do anything else. It works out of the box. There is a Azure Data Factory behind this. It actually just replicates the SQL data from one place to another using predefined scripts. You can't control what exactly would be replicated. It replicates the whole thing. Whatever you have on-prem, the whole thing would be in a cloud. If you would have different schemas, the integration would not break, but some parts of the data would be transferred if they are founded the same structure in a cloud. And it brings actually a variety of different interesting scenarios. Say, how to manage a cloud version if you don't have any. This is the case for Russia. We have on-prem localization database. We don't have a localized cloud solution. But many customers want that. We have legal limitations. Let's say, and some countries also have legal limitations when you have personal data protection law that restricts you to collect the data abroad. You need to first collect the data inside the country, and then you can store this abroad. Many companies want to do easy consolidation. So you can imagine multinational installations where you have Business Central installed in several different countries, and then some financial controller wants to sit and consolidate the data from different databases in a nice way. Then we wanted to have a good migration tool, how to migrate from on-prem to a cloud. Microsoft had not yet provided a good migration tool that would allow you to automatically migrate your customers from on-prem to cloud solutions. Then how to restore backups and actually migrate from one tenant to another tenant. This is also a question, and you can ask Microsoft to provide you a backup of your cloud solution, but then how to put it in a different tenant in a cloud. There are no instruments for that as well. And this all actually can be solved by Intelligent Edge. Once you set up the Intelligent Edge, you can, for example, cover the scenario when you have a Dutch localization and Russian localization, and both of them would be replicated to a cloud solution in a headquarters in the United Kingdom with a UK localization, and everything would be done in some 15 minutes automatically. So the replication is done on a company level, and it allows you to set up this scenario the way that the finance controller in the United Kingdom would always get the fresh data almost real time when users in the local databases enter the data. And you don't need any specific integration for that rather than Intelligent Edge itself. Then if you want to migrate the data from on-prem to a cloud, you again can set up intelligent edge, wait while the data is replicated one time, and then you cut the intelligent edge and throw the on-prem database away, and you start to work with a cloud solution. And if you want to migrate from one tenant to another tenant, you again can ask Microsoft to export the backup of a cloud solution. You install it on-prem, and then you again communicate with another tenant in the cloud, throwing the data from on-prem database there, and then you again cut the intelligent edge, and now you have it in a different tenant. So there are a lot of nice things that you can do with this tool, and we will show you how it works. I give the word to Andrey.
Thank you. So let's check. We have next situation. We have a virtual machine with installed Business Central on-premise. You can see it. It's Russian localization, and we want to clone our company, Kronos Russia, to cloud tenant, Business Central. So I already done it. For example, first time when you run the replication, it will take from 15 minutes to more, to 1 hour. It will replicate all your tables to the cloud. Next runs, you will transfer only Delta data. It will be runs faster. So I'm creating, I already have a replicated company, and I created a new customer on-premise. So let me do it. Okay, selecting template. Okay, number, NAV TechDays 2019. Okay, close my card, customer created. Now I'm opening cloud tenant, which is originally a United States tenant. So here I need to find my intelligent edge management. Now it named from release wave 2, it named cloud migration management. So I select it. Here you can see runs of replication. Failed replication, it happens when virtual machine were shut down. So
when we desperately tried to set up the demo
no.
several days.
So I'm running migration now. Okay. It moves to status running. It will work about 5 minutes, I hope. And while it's running, I will tell you how to set up this replication. So firstly, you need SQL Server Management Studio on your virtual machine or server where you installed on-premise. After that, open server properties, and you need to change server authentication to SQL Server and Windows authentication mode. Okay. After that, you're creating a new user for your integration. I'll create it. Where is Edge? Edge user. Edge user with password and also with access to that database which you are planning to replicate. In my case, demo database, Business Central. So, and last one moment, you need to open your database properties and change compatibility level to 130 to SQL Server 2016. Without it, you will get an exception on replication run. Okay. So now you are opening a cloud Business Central tenant and go to set up an extension, assisted setup. In assisted setup, the first point, set up cloud migration. Click it. OK. Accept the privacy notice. Next. Product selection. You are able to replicate data from Dynamics GP and Dynamics 365 Business Central. In previous version, in Spring release, you were able to replicate data also from NAV 2018.
R2.
Yeah, but now I think it could be other extension in extension marketplace, old one extension. You are able to install it and get data to new one release. But by default, you get only availability to clone data from Dynamics 365 Business Central and only from October release. OK, press next. And this is most interesting and most complicated setup page. Here, you choose the source. If your database placed in Azure SQL, everything is easy. Just copy connection string from Azure SQL, press next, everything runs smoothly. But with SQL Server, a little bit tricky. So we need to have connection string and integration runtime name. How to create connection string? It looks like that. Server parameter is SQL Server instance. Your database name as an initial catalog. Your user ID, which you created in Management Studio, and password. So you select this, copy it, and paste as SQL connection string. If it's your first run, you should have integration runtime name blank. Press next. And finally, you should get a link to download integration runtime. Integration runtime, it's OK. Trigger it, OK. Already completed. What is integration runtime? You will get a link to download file, you install it, and get this application on your on-premise, where your on-premise tenant placed. Run it. OK.
And it actually lives in a tray in the background of your
This is dialog, link to download self-hosted integration runtime, OK, and authentication key. So select all or not, OK. You need to copy this authentication key, and on the stage of installation of Microsoft Integration Runtime, you need to input that authentication key. You press OK, and you get Microsoft Integration Runtime running on your on-premise server. If you have a green mark, everything is OK. You can check your connection on Diagnostics tab. Click it. This is my connection, SQL Server instance, database name, basic authentication, username, user password, press test. If you obtain a green mark, you've done everything correctly. OK.
And that's it.
Yeah.
You don't have to do anything else.
Yeah, it's OK. After that, you need to open Cloud Migration Management page. Press Run Migration Now. You will get completed status. And in Settings, you will obtain a new company on your cloud tenant. So by default, it was Kronos USA. Now we have Kronos Russia in United States tenant. And
as we usually do in Russia, we are always somewhere in the United States.
So let's check out. Look at customer list on Business Central, on Cloud Business Central. I already obtained NAV TechDays 2019 customer here. So everything that I do in on-premise could be easily transferred to cloned to cloud tenant. without any coding, just using extension which you get with your installation.
Yep, so as simple as that. You don't need actually to develop anything or program any integration. You just set up a routine, and you can utilize it in a variety of different business scenarios, either with consolidation or data migration or constant replication of data.
And officially in documents, it's not supported to clone different localization, but as we see on practice, it works.
It works. We will have several giveaways here, so if you would like to read in more details about the steps of the scenarios, here are a few codes, QR codes that you can utilize. This small article describes how to use Intelligent Edge to support multi-country consolidations.
Yes, we already described this process step by step for you, so you
and
can
this
just read an article.
is how to replicate different business central localizations with Intelligent Cloud, and this one would show you the Intelligent Cloud setup for Business Central after the spring release. The next part is CDS and Power Platform, and who knows what CDS is? Why not everybody?
From this morning, everybody knows what is CDS.
Well, it should be. In simple words, when somebody wanted to integrate a CRM with an ERP system, this guy wants to build a connector, and he actually needed to know what is the database schema in CRM and database schema in ERP. Practically, where is the table of customers here and where is the table of customers there in order to get the connection and build the connector. And then Microsoft thought, why not have them identical and work with the same data schema that would be a kind of unified data format that everybody actually knows what and where is the table of customer. And then once it's done, it little bit breaks the normalization rules because it means that you are storing the same data in two different places. So the main idea is actually to put everything in one place so that many different applications would be able to read the data from the same source. And this is the global aim and global idea of the whole solution. And Power Platform, and specifically Power Apps tools, they are able to read the data, and you can create very interesting solutions in a very short period of time. I would give you one technical, practical example. Imagine that a guy had been hired to a company, and he has a certain manager, so there is some hierarchical structure in the organization. And then this guy goes to a business trip, and he wants to send an application for a business trip to his manager, and somewhere this information should be stored, and then the boss should get a notification that his employee wants to go to a business trip, and he needs to approve this, but he usually forgets, and there needs to be somebody who reminds him to approve the business trip, and when finally the business trip is approved, employee gets notification that it has been approved, and he goes to a business trip. Then after that, he needs to submit the reports and attach picture of receipts, and they also needs to be stored somewhere. And then the expense reimbursement report, he needs to write it, and it should be placed also somewhere, and the accounting department needs to verify, discuss perhaps something and approve the report. And then the expense reimbursement report needs to be created in Business Central, and preferably boss should have an option to monitor all the business trip statuses of all the employees. Now I have a question to you. How much time it would take to implement the whole thing purely in Business Central? A week? Less? What if I tell you that you can implement the whole thing in just 3 hours using Power Platform and Azure stack of solutions without basically a single line of code and cover all this scenario? We have a practical lab that we do with our customers where we walk through together with them with a variety of different solutions which are used to cover the whole process. And this lab is actually a 3-hour lab. So first of all, you're using Azure Active Directory to build up the hierarchy. You use a Power App to create a small application that allows the employee to fill in the request for a business trip. And it is stored in a simple and free-to-use SharePoint list. And then you can use Flow, which is not anymore Flow, but Power Automate with a recent update. Outlook and also Microsoft Teams to send a notification to a boss, and then we can use a Teams bot to monitor employers' boss activity and remind if he was not in time approving the request. And then you can use Outlook and Teams also for sending notifications to employer, and you can use Power App to fill in a business trip report again, and then you can use Azure Blob Storage to store the photos, and then use Common Data Service to push the report to storage. And then with Flow, Outlook, and Teams, again, you can interact with the accounting department and discuss there all the details. And then finally, you can send it to a business center. And with Power BI, you can build up a simple report to get information about all the statuses. So with this stack of solutions, it actually allows you not to customize your system, but to utilize all the existing stack that Microsoft offers. And this drastically shortens time to market. And you can think of a variety of different scenarios. We have several dozens of different labs that we play with our customers to show them how valuable these tools are. And I strongly recommend you to look there as well, because this actually is quite powerful. And this can be one of the scenarios. We didn't have time actually in Visio to put it in a nice way, so we just draw this here. And Flow was not anymore Flow while we were drawing, so it's actually a Power Automate now. But this is just an example how to use that. And one interesting thing, who was building bots ever? You don't need actually to program bots anymore as well, because there is a virtual agent designer in private preview and public preview, I think also. Do you know what virtual agent designer is? It is actually a tool that allows you to create your own bot using the same user experience as you were using Flow. So you just create boxes and connect the boxes and create the answers and questions, and then you publish it as a web service, and you can call it from anywhere. And so you don't need anymore to be a developer to create a bot. You can be just a user, and you can create a bot in the same absolutely way as you are creating Flow. So everything moves towards that direction, to power users who are able to replace the traditional developer functions in that area. Okay, there is one more thing that we wanted to talk about is, as an example, is remote assist. And remote assist is quite an example of democratization of the technology. Now, who knows what remote assist is? Okay, who knows what HoloLens is? Aha, way more. So there is a scenario in Microsoft that allows a user who wears the HoloLens call to a guy in the office who is using Teams. So the guy in the office, he sits he looks at his screen, and he sees there everything that guy with the HoloLens sees. And then he is able to draw on his screen the virtual added reality objects that the user with HoloLens will be able to see as static objects bounded to a certain reality using geotags. Let's say if a guy with HoloLens opens an electricity box, and the guy in the office draws a certain circle around some switch, the guy with the HoloLens can look away and then turn back, and he would see the same circle around the same switch. Now, you don't need actually a HoloLens for that anymore, because this technology has been ported to a simple mobile phone. So with just a mobile phone, you can execute exactly the same scenario. So the guy with a mobile phone without a HoloLens can actually see all the added reality that the guys in Teams can draw him. And this, what we used for several customers of ours, we created a scenario where there has been a service task request, a service order in CRM, in a field service, and then the guy remotely was going to a spot, and then the guy in the office was giving him suggestions, and then the suggestions were used, and this video was stored in CRM, and based on the triggers in CRM, you could create also a service order in a Business Central. And again, you don't need actually any customization and development for this. This technology comes out of the box, and if you would learn more how it works, this is again a QR code for that. With next topic is the Azure integration capabilities, and there are a lot of different things that we can talk about, and we are very short of time to talk about them all. But we have a service bus for messaging, we have API management, and we have logic apps for orchestration. And if you want ETL, you can use Data Factory. And you can have a multiple hybrid scenarios where not necessarily everything should be in the cloud. There might be several solutions on-prem connected together. And many of these scenarios we actually utilize together, and one of those we would demonstrate right away. We will use Azure Service Bus and Azure Function, and again we would use a Power Automate to send notifications from Business Central to the users in a way that allows to control the process through a service bus.
Okay, let's check it. My current scenario is we work in a company with a lot of employees, and every time we forget to congratulate them with a birthday. So we need a notification about employee's birthday, which can be sent automatically. My employees are in Business Central. Yep. This is the list. I am able to create job queue entry, which monitors today's date and birthday date inside the employee's card. But I created a simple action to simulate how it works. So let me show you. I'm selecting one employee, pressing send notification, send congratulation. It works. And after that, in a couple of seconds, I hope, just okay, yeah. Let me show you. This is flow notification, which I get that sorry, that employee has a birthday today. How it was organized? It was quite complex scenario. So we have a simple extension on the page extension for employees page with which sends a message to Azure Service Bus. What is Azure Service Bus? For example, you have Business Central, but you don't want to provide any access to third parties to your Business Central. You want to let them only read messages from some messages queue. So we created a new resource in Azure, which called Service Bus. Yeah, you can find it here. After creation, you will get Service Bus namespace, and you need to create a queue inside Service Bus. So I already made it. Yeah, I have 3 queues for sending messages. Also, you need to open shared access policies and create a new shared access policy, which has manage rights. And you will get primary key and secondary key here, yeah, and connection strings. Everything looks great, except one moment. To communicate with Service Bus directly, you need to create a shared access signature token. Microsoft has a big article how to create this token with code. It's not possible to create it automatically from Azure portal or something like that. You need to create a lot of code to create a SAS token. For example, when you communicate with a storage account, you are able to generate a SAS token directly from storage account. For Service Bus, it's not possible. There are 2 ways. One way is to write a lot of code to generate a SAS token, which will be accessible for some period of time. And other way, it's create a very few code with Azure Function. Azure Function are able to communicate directly with Azure Service Bus and send their message. Sorry, not. Yeah, you need to install Azure Functions extension for your Visual Studio Code. Okay. When after your login, you will get your subscriptions and your apps inside the Azure. So I already created new app service. Yeah, 19. And here your Azure functions stored. In Visual Studio, you selected your app and create a new function with the type HTTP trigger. It's basic code. After implementing, you will get all these files, and you need to make a small changes. First change is a little bit change of standard code. You're obtaining some HTTP request here. You need to add one dependency on Service Bus package, this one. After that, you are able to place code here. We're reading a message from our request body and assign this message to our Service Bus output, outstring. That's all. And one moment, you need to set Service Bus connections. It's name of your queue, which you previously created on your Service Bus NAV to ASB, and connection string, which you could obtain, as you remember, directly from Azure Service Bus, primary connection string. Service Bus connection, it's a local setting constant. Yeah, just copy your primary connection string here. After that, you published your solution to Azure. You see no code here. Come on. Yeah, now it's like black box. You can't see any code. But, okay. I will show you again where to obtain connection string from shared access policy. Updating. yeah, primary connection string. You need to copy it and place here to local settings. So now almost everything is ready. So I created Azure function. This is URL of Azure function. And now when I will publish here any message, we can use Azure functions from Business Central easily, just with simple HTTP client. When we type something here, this message is sending to Service Bus. Status OK. In Service Bus creates some magic, and I'll get notification on my phone. Some magic is flow, Power Automate. So I created a new flow. You see with only 2 connections. One connection is Service Bus, and second one connection is notification on my phone. Okay. On Service Bus, we trigger event when a message received in a queue and send me a mobile notification. 2 easy steps. You can see templates in flow. Okay, Service Bus. You see a lot of available scenarios for flow, how you can use Service Bus. You are able to create some report from Business Central, send it with Azure functions to Service Bus, and from Service Bus, it will be sent with flow, for example, to OneDrive disk. So you're able to transfer your data with a long chain. A lot of scenarios, ready scenarios, you are able to create your own or use existing. So that's how it works with a few code.
Yes, so again, with a little bit of development, you can utilize the Azure Service Bus capabilities that allow you to connect different sources and utilize several scenarios.
One more notification. You are able to monitor your messages in Azure Service Bus, but you are not able to read your messages from there. For example, if a message was not requested from queue, it keeps storing in queue. You want to explore what happened. For this aim, already created Service Bus Explorer. You can find it free on GitHub. It looks this way. You need to push connect, put into a connection string, as you see for Azure function, and you could explore all your queues in this tool. You are able to read messages, to create messages here directly from this tool. So it's a great instrument to explore the Azure Service Bus.
And again, if you want to learn more about this, here is some giveaways. With this QR code, you can check the Azure Service Bus access control with shared access signatures, how to set this up. And these are the links to GitHub repository. This is for Business Central part for sending messages. And this one is for Azure function code part for sending messages, and you are free to utilize that in your practice.
Yeah, all that code that I show you just now, it's available on GitHub. You can use it.
Before I move to a next demo, a few words about self-hosted APIs management gateway. Well, in simple words, it is a solution for publishing APIs to external and internal customers and quickly create modern API gateways for both existing backend services that can be hosted practically anywhere. And you can expose and you can publish and you can manage the microservice architecture as APIs and better understand and optimize your APIs. And you can do a variety of things with this tool. You can create and publish APIs, mock APIs responses, transform and protect your APIs, monitor, debug, and what is more important, publish multiple versions of your API. And if you would like to go to more details, here is again a QR code for API management. We would not demo this today. We would demo this one. This is actually called Microsoft Graph and Logic Apps. Who knows what Microsoft Graph is?
Almost everybody.
Okay, good. Have you used that? Because usually Microsoft shows a Microsoft Graph as something roundish, connected with other roundish elongated objects on a screen, and most of the people who I have been asking what it is about, they actually don't know. In simple words, it's a nice, convenient API to manage your Office 365 in a very short way. In more longer description, it allows to delegate calls to different Office 365 cloud services via one single endpoint. And you can use it to interact with the data of different users that are presented in a Microsoft Cloud. And within our previous last year session here in Directions, I got a question how to implement a business scenario where the user, the employee, will be created as an employee card inside Business Central, but then the Active Directory credentials and Office 365 credentials would be created automatically. Because in each and every company there is a problem. When a new person comes to a company, he needs to get credentials. And who actually creates logins and passwords for him? This is some IT guy, and he gets this information from somewhere else, either from a manager or from an HR. And then when the guy leaves the company, the poor IT guy whose task is to shut down his credentials, he might not necessarily actually get the information that the guy had left. And then nobody actually shuts down the credentials, and the guy who left the company continues using the resources of the company. And how to control this? You can actually exclude the IT guy out of this process completely. And you can create a trigger in your HR system the way that when HR is creating a new employee and transfer this to active status, everything can be created automatically, and the credentials would be sent to the new employer's private email. And when he will leave the company, the HR system would just deactivate his card, and it would go the other way around back. And you don't need actually an IT guy for this process. And this we actually try to simulate with a small demo, which I will try to show you. Have you noticed that all the live demos are working so far? So
We're also surprised.
What I have here, I have a cloud sandbox of Business Central, and it has a list of employees which contains just a couple of employees so far because it's an empty database. And I have also a Microsoft Office portal. Here I have a flow, which is not anymore flow, which is a Power Automate. And when I push the flow, I can create a very simple flow that would allow me to connect our Business Central to Active Directory. So I will create a new flow. I have a couple of those. I would need a new one. So I would create an automated flow. And this would be NAV TechDays demo. I will search for Business Central. And here I have an action when a record is created. I will use this one. And then I would select my sandbox environment, and I will select my company. And then I will select a table, and obviously I need employees table for this purpose. Here it is. Then I need to, this means that when a new employee is created there, I need to do something. What I need from Power Automate from my flow is to get this data, which has been created. And again, I will use absolutely standard Business Central connector. There are two options to have it on-premise and on a cloud. On-premise works either. We are living in a cloud world, so I need to demonstrate everything as it in the cloud. And here, I select the get record. And again, here I select sandbox and select a company name and select our employee table, because from there we would need to read the data. And we select the row ID. Basically, this is half done, because we get now the data. Now we need to send this data to Active Directory. So there is a standard connector that allows me to use Azure Active Directory with a create user action. And no, see, you don't need even Microsoft Graph for this. It just goes directly. Yes, the account is enabled. The display name is, let it be just a display name. The mail nickname, and here there is a small trick, because there is a space between the given name and the family name. It would not create it correctly, so I need to have just one line of code here, and this is our line of code, and this is actually what makes the level of our session 300. So I put this line of code as an expression here. What it does, it actually, in simple words, eliminates the space between the given name and the family name, and that's it. It doesn't do anything else. And then I need a password with some password generator. And then, again, we need a principal name. I would use again, the same line of code to put it here to eliminate spaces as an expression. And this would be followed by my domain name here. Whoops. Once again. Expression and domain name here. On Microsoft.com. Okay. And that's basically it. I can save it. And it looks like I don't have any errors so far. What I need to do now is to create a new employee. One more thing. I will put here a small delay. for testing purposes for 30 seconds. No, not minutes. I want to go to have a walking dinner. Yep, this is it. So we will create now a new employee in the employee list. And live demos, I hate them. I will use my colleague as,
You mistyped.
yep, like this. And he will be sorry, oops.
Last one. Mhm.
Yep. So that's it. And what is happening now with our flow? It says it's running. And it's almost 30 seconds. Now it gets the data and it should create a user. Yeah. Hey, it's successful. Let's go to Azure portal. And here is my Azure portal with the same tenant. And I can go to the users and I can see that there is Andrey Baludin as a new user here. Wow, it's it's magic.
Thank you.
Now we go to this user, and what I would not demo this now, but you can use it as your task. In the profile of the user, you can edit the profile. I will do this manually. I will change the location to United States as usual. I will save these. And then I can assign a license to him. And I can assign a Business Central license. I will do this now manually, but the thing that I'm doing now, you can do with a Microsoft Graph. So you can actually create a small Azure function that would manipulate with a Graph API in order to do exactly what I'm doing now. Yes, the license assignment has been succeeded. And I can actually now automatically create a user in the Business Central with Business Central credentials. So see, there is no Andrey here so far. I can process and I can get new users from Office 365. Numbers of users retrieved.
In the middle.
Yes, here he is. Here we have Andrey as a new user in Business Central, and he can now access Business Central. So you can utilize this scenario again with practically very little code, just using several different tools that Microsoft offers. And before you, I know that everybody of you are facing practical business scenarios basically every day. And users and customers, they're coming to you with requests. I need to do this and this in my system. So before customizing Business Central, think first, is there any way of using existing services that Microsoft offers before you start to customize your system? And if you are not sure, and that's actually pretty hard to follow everything that happens in Azure, because Azure is quite a huge thing, and new services, they constantly pop up every month or even every week, and you're not able to follow everything what happens. I'm fond of collecting different practical business scenarios. If you have some of those, you can drop me an email or find me on Twitter and ask that you have a specific scenario, can this be utilized without the development? I would gladly assist with that. And again, if you want to learn more about Microsoft Graph and Logic Apps and Flow, this is the correct QR code to follow the documentation. Last but not least, there has been, because we have the integration session, there has been small changes to OData for Business Central. At some point, Microsoft realized that the server was not performing optimally, and the top query option was not passed to top close in SQL queries. So basically, database was not benefiting from query options. So they finally made a change, and this change resulted in adding certain settings. The default number of rows in the top query has been increased to 20,000, and the Business Central OData connections can now undergo these three small changes that I had indicated. And again, if you want to learn more about OData improvements, this is the correct QR code for this. I think that the presentations would be distributed to everybody, so you don't need necessarily to take a picture. With that, I'd like to go to a short Q&A sessions before we go to a walking dinner. So if you have any questions, we would be glad to answer. Oh shit, there are questions.
Thank you very much for the presentation. I have a question for Intelligent Edge.
Okay.
It contains two questions actually. Does your Business Central version need to be on the same version? And for extensions, I suppose it also works, but if you have an on-premise extension and on-cloud extension with the same tables, does it also work, or how can you modify the synchronization, replication?
Okay. The only issue that you can obtain during the replication of data is then field in destination table are less than a field shorter than a field in originated table.
If you have extensions, the same extensions in both places, then it would replicate the data between them. But
if you have extension, all the data except if it's the same extension, all data will be replicated.
It is not actually a problem, because the idea was that if the field on-prem is longer, it would be just truncated to a shorter one.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Anybody else?
I have a question in regard to, for example, Power Apps, because in your Power Automate you used the standard Business Central connector, but this just offers me the entities with the standard Business Central API.
And they are actually in a public preview so far. So not all of them are like final.
Yeah. But at least when I asked Microsoft, they always said that by design, it's only the public API entities which you can trigger with the Business Central connector. And my question is, for example, if you, because for many business cases, you just want to make a Power App and query actually some data from Business Central, but what's your best practice for doing this? Are you writing custom connectors and then connecting, or are you transferring every data to the CDS? Or are you making, I don't know, any other thing, copying data to Azure SQL Service?
It actually depends on the case. What we do, we are trying to push Microsoft to provide us more standard tools, and this is what you should do as well. So you should publish the requests that in Power Automate there should be more things to access a certain tables and certain fields even in Business Central. Then basically depends on the case. If I can utilize what is offered by standard, then I do. For example, in our case, we used just the standard things that are offered. Sometimes we are lacking those, and we try to invent a workaround using Azure Functions and Power Apps. And Power App is also quite tricky for Business Central, because for AX and finance operations and CRM part, they are working with pure CDS as such, and
That's
CDS.
right, that's awesome.
And CDS actually, well, it's on the one hand it's awesome. From the other hand, it requires you to have a user licensed on both parts. You need to have a license of Power App inside the organization, and a license of finance and operations or CRM, because CDS actually controls the access. In Business Central, you might not necessarily do this. You might have one user license in Business Central and multiple users in Power Apps licensed, which would go to Business Central through only one. And is it multiplexing or not? It's a gray zone, but this is the option that you can use so far until Business Central will be purely on CDS.
I have a question for your example with a birthday push notification. You used the service bus and you use the service bus as a trigger for Flow.
Yes, Flow has an inbuilt connector for Service Bus, and in Service Bus you can choose an event which occurs. I choose when message appears in message queue.
Okay.
And after that, you select second one, trigger, which is notification, but you need to install Flow application on your mobile phone to receive the notification.
And why aren't you using the HTTP trigger for Microsoft Flow?
So what is the advantage? No, HTTP trigger was for Azure Function. So Azure Function is just a gate to access the Azure Service Bus. I am able to create scenario without Azure Function, but in that case, I need to create a token for Service Bus inside the Business Central. It will be
So that's a way to
requires a lot of
avoid
code.
creating a token.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
using Azure
the Azure Functions is just to simplify the authentication to Azure Service Bus. Because from Business Central, we can just create a post request to Azure Function, and that's all.
But aren't you able in Microsoft Flow that the trigger is an HTTP request and that
You mean to send some data from Business Central
directly
to Flow?
to Flow? So Flow is a web service.
No, demo was about Azure Service Bus, so we have to use Azure
I
Service
just
Bus.
asked, what is the advantage of using Service Bus, or is there an advantage?
Azure Service Bus, if I want to provide some information about some events inside the company, for example, a sales shipment or something like that, I can generate messages about shipments and send them to Azure Service Bus, for example. And third party will have access not to Business Central. I don't want to create login for them to pass them inside to the Business Central APIs or something like that. They just need to trigger a message queue and obtain messages about shipments or about anything else from Service Bus. So, but it was quite boring scenario for them. So.
We have run out of shorts, so we would not give you any more.
No question.
I have a question related to the first one. Suppose I have an app on the app stores, and basically the same app for on-premises, but renumbered, because I don't have an ISV range or something. So once I'm using the public range, and for the app stores one, I'm using 70 million. Regarding the intelligent edge feature, are there any workarounds to use it in that case? Because basically the tables wouldn't be recognized as being the same.
Well, that's actually a good question. The honest answer, I have not tried that. Most likely it would fail. It would not replicate the data from on-prem to a cloud.
Especially if they have different IDs.
We need to think about this. That's a good question, how to work around that, but straight ahead, you can't replicate this, but we can think about it.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, actually, the previous guy just asked my question, but I have an extension to this question. So, if we have this scenario where we have on-premises which has one extension installed and it has data in the extension tables, and then we have the cloud version which doesn't have this extension, and we start this integration between these two instances, what will happen if the extension is later installed on the cloud version? Will it replicate the data that is missing?
It always replicates all the data that is on premise. And if you are changing anything, if you are posting the data or entering any other data in a cloud solution, it would be there just until the next replication. So it will be totally cleaned. So every time when the replication comes, it pushes all the data and it doesn't affect what is on-prem. With one small comment, actually, when the replication is done, the on-premise SQL database, it has a certain cache in order to optimize the performance. Once you are reading the whole way through everything from on-prem SQL database to a cloud database, it might disturb the cache on a SQL database the way that it would run a little bit slower with the normal user scenarios for some time before it again obtains the optimal cache. This is the only effect that might come up. But basically the idea is that everything is replicated. So once you have installed if you do not have the extension in the cloud, the replication of the data in extension on premise would not go through. When you install the extension to a cloud, within the next replication, everything that is there in the database in on-prem solution would be pushed to a cloud.
Okay, thank you.
And also I got a situation then you replicating bigger field of standard table to shorter field. And this time replication shows you a message that table were failed to replicate. And I made shrinking of field on-premise side. So it was then it was OLOT and it was CL. And after that, you just recreate a connection on cloud side and replication runs smoothly after that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. We have still a few minutes left. Yes.
Yeah, throw it back.
Oh, sure. Who is it? Okay.
Thank you. Do you have good experience with those model-driven designers as for Flow or for the bot framework in production environments? It seemed to me that they are good for building fast demos, but in a production environment it's kind of tedious to build those. kind of tedious to build a DevOps pipeline who publishes changes of those. And yeah, if you do what you, if you know what you do, you can build most of the flows, for example, much faster and much cheaper in a TCO perspective with Azure Functions, for example. Do you use it really in production environments?
Well, we use quite many things in production environments, and everything that we demoed today, these are the actually examples from production environments.
Okay.
But you have two, I think, questions here. First question is how to efficiently use certain solutions in a production environment, and the second question is how to correctly support, build, update, and develop new features in the same things. And so the first question is easy to answer. It depends on the case again. And for example, for really critical scenarios, we're not using Flow, we're using logic apps rather than Flow. As practice shows, that's just one example. So we select the correct technology for supporting a correct business scenario. The second question is more difficult because, of course, using the DevOps and CI/CD processes for handling a stack of solutions is something that we also just started ourselves, and we also see it's not easy thing. But I do hope that utilizing stack of solutions that Microsoft offers and Azure DevOps and Azure DevOps pipelines, we try to use those there as much as possible. And that's actually quite a good tool, especially it's provided in many cases for free. So why not using this? Okay, we are just together with you in the very beginning of this route.
Okay.
Throw.
I don't know who is it.
Do you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. If I recall correctly, like a year ago, when using Intelligent Edge, not all of the tables were synchronized. And do we have any control over what is actually being synchronized?
No, you don't. Unfortunately, you don't have, at least yet, any control of what you will synchronize. It synchronizes almost everything as much as possible. There are a few technical tables which are not synchronized, but
like reservation entries, if I recall, or something like that.
no, I think reservation entries are synchronized. I mean, really technical, the system, some system tables are not synchronized. As far as I remember, reservation entries were also synchronized.
Yeah, it replicates all, and you can see on page with cloud migration management a small tip with a quantity of tables which were replicated successfully or unsuccessfully. So you can click on it, get an error messages why it happened. Usually you can get two error messages that field size is smaller than in original database, or table does not exist in the cloud environment.
Or the field is missing at all.
Yeah, if the table is missing, that is usually happens with localization. So in localization we have a bunch of local tables. They will be not replicated. You will get an errors on these tables, but replication will run.
What happened a year ago, the database schemas needed to be identical. And it
a year ago,
it was not actually that flexible as of today. But this time, after April release, you can use different database schemas. And it actually replicates as much as it can.
Thanks.
Anybody else?
Hi there.
Hi.
Very quick question about Intelligent Edge. At some point in time this spring, I guess, we tried to migrate, and there was a problem with migrating from SQL Azure to the cloud because of collation issue.
Yeah, I also got it.
Was it fixed at any point?
I tried to fix it many ways, but firstly I had a database in the on-premise SQL server. After that, I moved on-premise database to the Azure SQL, and after that I got a collation issue.
Yep.
I tried to fix it, I failed, so I put the base back to the on-premise, and with on-premise it works. With
Yeah, I know
Azure database, not.
But is there any plan to address this issue at some point? Because, well, the situation is quite comical because, well, we as a business
Yeah.
moved all of the customers to Azure, and now, year, 2 years in, we try to move them on cloud, and we tell them, okay, guys, now you have to migrate back on premise. We can be moved on SaaS.
I think that, well, this issue has been addressed to the product team.
Okay.
They are now redesigning the intelligent edge, and I think it would be called a migration tool sooner or later. I hope it would be called like that already in spring release. Let's see. And I think they would be able to fix this issue already there, but I'm not sure. I mean, I'm not working for Microsoft.
sure.
They can say to you that only equal localization replication is available, so officially it's so, yeah.
Officially, they don't support this scenario. Like,
Okay. One more question about replica. You mentioned it every time it runs, it gets the full replica across, so it doesn't take the delta.
yes.
So if in case of a big database, like 1/4 terabyte, it will mean we'll have to shut the business down for...
No. It's actually not that stupid. It uses Azure Data Factory in the background, and using SQL service procedures, this routine actually analyzes the delta and pushes the delta. It analyzes whether the data that has been already synchronized is not pushed through. So the next replication goes a lot faster than the initial one.
Oh, fair enough, okay. Makes sense. Thank you.
Last question. Anybody else? Okay, we're actually running out of time, and thank you very much for being with us. You're a great audience.
Thank you for attending.